Hello, my name is Mace and I own Colorado Reverse Mortgage. You're watching my vlog series helping you move forward in reverse. I received a letter that I quite frankly couldn't get around fast enough to respond to. It comes from a woman, a daughter, whose first name is Misty. Misty writes me, "Dear Mr. Mace," I'll take it. "Dear Mr. Mace, Dad has been a sweet and gentle man my whole life. But over the past year, his dementia has been progressing rapidly. With more frequency, he's getting frustrated, angry, and a few weeks ago, he's taken to breaking things in the house. My brother and I both have full-time jobs and families of our own, but we help out as best we can. Dad's sleeping patterns are now irregular, and Mom can no longer take care of him. A few times he's left the house for walks and has gotten lost. Thankfully, nothing bad has happened, but sooner or later it could. Mom is so sad, but agrees that Dad now needs to be put into a home where he can be supervised. Mom has power of attorney for him, but is overwhelmed and depressed and asked me to figure out how to make her finances work. The problem is that these assisted living centers are so expensive. My brother and I have families of our own, and while we're both willing to chip in, we're not able to handle the financial burden before us. I don't know what to do. Can you help us or recommend someone who can?" Signed, Misty. Misty, as I said earlier, thank you again for your letter. I do have a feeling that this video is going to be a special one for me. You see, I'm very familiar with your scenario and what you're going through. On a personal level, I was actually in your shoes 15 years ago and why and how I was actually introduced to the reverse mortgage product. You see, my grandpa was 6'4", and until his death, he was physically a very healthy man, as he had been his whole life. He footballed in high school, he rode crew at Cornell, and he flew an Avenger in World War II off of an aircraft carrier. He was an active man and continued his athleticism throughout his life. He was big, he was strong, he was an imposing looking fellow, but as gentle as a bear with a big laugh and a bigger heart. However, with his dementia, he took to roaming the streets in the wee hours of the morning in nothing more than his slippers. The neighborhood cops would find him and a few miles from home actually, and bring him back at 3 a.m. Now, Grandma, who was a little thing at 5'2", Grandma was quite a bit smaller, and she could no longer safely manage Grandpa or his actions. Now, they lived in Georgia at the time when Grandma called me to let me know that Grandpa's dementia had gotten so bad that he needed to be admitted into a VA assisted living facility. Now, in fact, he had already been admitted to 2 other facilities, but because of his dementia, he became again frustrated and a bit angry at times. When he's in these moods, he overpowered the staff and a few times actually, and he got kicked out of both places pretty quickly. Now, the VA facility wasn't as nice as the other 2 that we tried to get him into, but the VA facility wasn't allowed to kick him out. So ultimately, that's where he stayed. Now, because I had been involved with mortgage lending since 1993, and Grandma, of course, thinking that I was the exceptional grandson, Grandma wanted me to explain to her and help her with getting a reverse mortgage. Okay, now, I didn't have a clue. I had heard the name, but I didn't know a thing about them at this point. So I found a licensed reverse mortgage specialist in Georgia who explained to us both how the reverse mortgage could help out our family. Long story short, now after grilling the loan officer, learning the basics, me doing further research and then grilling the loan officer even more, I gave Grandma the thumbs up that she wanted to get from me. A few months later, with me riding shotgun, she closed on her reverse mortgage in Georgia and began to draw out the funds as it was needed. And she continued to live in the house while Grandpa was in the VA facility. She spent a lot of time at the VA facility, but she continued to live in the home, their home, as her primary residence. Now, Grandpa did stay in the VA facility for about 18 months before he died. Now, when Grandpa died, at this point, Grandma stopped using the reverse mortgage line of credit. She stopped using it for about a decade. Now, over this period of time, she was required to make withdrawals out of their retirement savings, but she used these retirement withdrawals, and she used those funds and paid down the reverse mortgage. Now, between her putting money back into the reverse mortgage, paying that balance down, and also the growth on that line of credit, the line of credit grew quite nicely for her over that 10-year period. Now, in her later years, she began to draw it down again as she needed more help, around the house. Grandma died a few years ago, but I am glad that the reverse mortgage was there for her when she needed it. After she died, my aunt, who was the executor, she sold the home in Georgia, and through the closing, the reverse mortgage balance got paid off, and the remaining equity and whatever other assets were there were split equally between my aunt and my mom and their brother. Now, maybe a year or so after Grandpa had passed away, I got a call from a guy named Harvey. I'll never forget Harv. Harvey was searching for someone to help him obtain a reverse mortgage because he had about $80,000 worth of debts that needed to be consolidated and paid off. The monthly payments were just too much for him and his partner to handle. But you see, he'd been calling all over the state trying to find someone to help him with a reverse mortgage, and nobody was willing to do it. But he certainly did not want to work with one of those 1-800 numbers. He absolutely didn't want to be doing this with somebody that wasn't familiar with the state. Now, I shared with him at the time, my relatively recent family experience, and that I'd like to help him. Harvey knew that he was going to be a guinea pig for me, and that I had no practical, professional experience in the reverse mortgage. But Harv was grateful that I was even willing to attempt to help him. So with both of us not knowing what we were getting ourselves into, we did muddle through the process. It did take me a little bit longer than it does today. It might have taken me a lot longer than it does today. But I'm forever grateful that Harv let me practice and cut my teeth on him. So I was so impressed with how it helped Grandma, and a few years later, Harvey, that ultimately I decided to leave the conventional mortgage lending industry and specialize. I began to teach others. I grew my reputation, grew my business. Harv and I kept in touch. I think it was a lot of fun for Harv to follow me, because he was the one that actually pushed me off the diving board into my newfound career path. Misty, I'm glad your mom has power of attorney in place. For those of you who have watched other videos of mine, you know I'm a proponent of this document and its uses. Yes, assisted living facilities can be expensive, and they can even be more so with the different levels of care and services that are offered. Now, in my family's situation, if I recall correctly, Grandma used a combination of sources to pay about $4,000 a month for Grandpa's care. Some of the funds came from his monthly pension. The difference was split equally between their portfolio resources and the reverse mortgage line of credit. Ultimately, it worked perfectly twice for her. First, of course, was for Grandpa and his 18-month situation in the VA facility. And then again later for her, when she needed to access it in her later years. So to me, yes, it sounds like the reverse mortgage may be an ideal solution for you and your mom, your family. It certainly was for my family, and I'd appreciate the opportunity to help your mom and the rest of you guys out. So if you appreciate the video, if you like this video, please give me a big thumbs up down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to learn more. My contact information will be at the end of this video. Give me a call, shoot me an email. I'm happy to help. Take care. Thank you.